Welcome to the Investing Podcast presented by Tusk Media. This is Outsider Trading, an audio and video deep dive into the people, places, and things that we find most interesting in the market.
Hey, welcome back to the Investing Podcast. We are talking today about digital advertising. It was brought up about a week and a half ago by WPP. A big British advertising company. The CEO is always on Bloomberg, it seems. He's always going to Davos. He brought in $50 million to his personal bank account last year. Not bad for an advertising guy. So he was talking about where digital spending is going. And I think this is particularly appropriate today because we're about just a week advanced from the Snap IPO. We have this big AOL, Yahoo, Verizon mess, for lack of a better term, coming up. And so we wanted to kind of take a look into what this big advertiser is saying. They spent about $5 billion on Google alone last year and see where the trends are going in digital. So I guess the first thing to kind of take a step back on is WPP says that search and social are going to be the two fronts on which this digital war is waged. So I guess that brings up the first question of where is the digital spend going to go? Is it going to go, do you think search is a better platform or social a better platform in order for an advertiser to actually get traction and actually make money from the ad?
Yeah, I think that's something that's interesting. And one thing I would note there is, it seems like so much of the Internet of Things, so to speak, that we've gotten to, it's really enabled a culture where almost anybody can have some kind of online-based business, ourselves included. I mean, with what we're doing right here with Tusk Media, to some way we're creating content, we're somehow getting paid for it. We don't quite know how, but thanks to those who do it. But, even that comment in and of itself kind of lends itself to the idea of, maybe some people that have traditionally run side business or things like that may get squeezed even tighter and tighter, the independent journalists, those types. So kind of interesting. I lean towards search as the more viable means of advertising simply because it seems like we're closer to a point of stylistic saturation on social. And what I mean by that, it's my own term, and there's probably actually a term for this that I just don't know. So I made that up. But I just think of the number of search functions that we already do that do not have advertisements on it. I think about, something like, asking your phone something like, asking Amazon's Alexa, things like that, where you're not really getting any kind of advertisement coming back. You're using it for search utility. One of the big things, I was just at a conference this week, and they were talking about how that type of voice recognition software is going to become increasingly integrated even in our industry, the financial world. It just seems like there's a lot of places we still search and we don't see or come across any ads. Whereas on social, it seems like they're becoming increasingly common. So I lean towards search being one that would just continue to grow.
And why can't advertisers just do the social, but do it without having to pay money? Because you ran a blog for a while, a college football blog, and you had a lot of traction on that. And I don't think you ever paid for social advertising.
I never paid a single penny for social advertising. Got a lot of traction, I guess would be the word, on Twitter, also some on Facebook, but Twitter especially, and it was a free platform in which I could put everything I wanted out there. And I would almost say there's certain industries where if you are not advertising for yourself on social media, you're falling behind. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to pay for that.
Right.
It's kind of one of those things where if Twitter had charged me for the amount of traction I was getting off of my tweets, like direct traffic, I probably would have paid them because it was worthwhile for me, because in turn I had advertisers. But it was a free way to kind of build an audience and bring people in.
So search over social in that war, and then within those buckets you have some companies fighting it out. So on the search side, obviously Google is a big name. On the social side, obviously Facebook's a big name. And under Facebook umbrella, you have Instagram and WhatsApp and the rest. But then WPP highlighted the up and comers or the also rans who they think are the ones who could fight for that top spot in those respective segments. And for Facebook, for social, they highlighted Snap. I don't know if that's just a function of it was in the news, it's the IPO. And then for search, they highlighted Amazon. I don't see Amazon as a search company.
I don't view them that way inherently now at all, but I think it kind of, I would put them in the bucket of things of, well, why am I not seeing ads within this type of platform? And you start to think about, how much Amazon could do. Right now, even if you take their actual online store model, Amazon could easily, and I guess if I'm a vendor, let's say that I sell really great looking cowboy hats to men that shouldn't be wearing them.
I think really great looking shirts.
Yeah, we had the same shirt, the same pants on, so I had to, make sure people didn't get us confused. I was about to make a bad joke, we'll let that one go. But all brown-haired white men look alike. So we'll just run with it. But you think about, let's say I sell cowboy hats in all seriousness. Right now I kind of have a couple things. If I want to have an e-commerce store, I can, go to a number of different partners. I could set up an Etsy shop, something like that. I could have my own website. I could also run things through Amazon and have my own little Amazon shop through Amazon and through their, portal of diverse services that they offer. But it seems like Amazon could monetize me having something totally unrelated by saying, well, here's some other cowboy hat options. You click and it actually takes you totally out of Amazon.
Right. And
all of a sudden you're generating revenue that way because you just look at the frequency of which people are using that. That seems like a big way to do it. So I don't view them as a search company now, I guess, to go back to my initial thought, but it does seem like a place where there's room to grow.
Yeah. And then as far as Snap goes, I do think that their platform is, at least to this point, more conducive to ads than even a Facebook, because I don't think, I notice the ads on Facebook, I don't notice the ads on Snapchat until the ad is pretty much over.
Right.
And I think they have a tendency to be able to more subtly integrate it. I think Facebook has found that difficult, and they've been doing it for a long time. So I would say that in both instances, you have situations where there are legitimate competitors, at least at this point. Obviously, it's more still in the idea phase on the Amazon and Snap side. But I think there are legitimate competition for both Google and Facebook in those categories.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've talked about this, at least at our end-of-day podcast things that we do live. I like what Snap has done in terms of integrating actual advertisers and actually generating some revenue. Obviously, we don't know a whole lot about how that's going to project out now that they're publicly traded. We're going to know a whole lot about that and what the plans are and what's going on. But, for a company that's relatively young, less mature technology-wise than other companies that went public, I think they're really robust in their advertising model. I agree. I don't mind their ads. I think they're placed pretty effectively. I think they're going to continue to grow a user base. And there's something to be said for, the biggest complaint, I guess, with millennials and young people is that lack of attention span. There's something to be said for the fact that people our age, or probably even significantly younger than me, I'm not that young, but have made this entire app in terms of making up its audience, making sure that they're, a huge portion of their core user base are young people. And they obviously like content in 10 seconds and disappearing format. There's something to be said, because the other side of it, it just seems, it's going to take some adjustment and some creativity, but I look at something like Vine and the diversity of videos you saw in 6-second frames. And the people that were really good at that were able to actually make huge volumes of content. It seems like advertisers could put out a phenomenal variety of advertisements by having a 10-second format.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be world-class, production. It can be a little bit more loose. It can be a little bit more fun. It can be a little bit more quick-hitting. Whereas something on Facebook where they're targeting a huge audience with a 60-second or a 30-second pre-roll ad or whatever it may be, it takes a little more time, probably a little more money, that kind of thing. So it seems like Snap would be, if I were advertising, I think I would be advertising on Snap.
Yeah, and so if you had, say, $100 to invest, how out of those four, where would you allocate those $100?
Man, that's tough.
So we're already biased a little more towards search.
Yep. I think at least 50% would be going to Google. Thereafter, I would probably, right now, I mean, I'm countering myself. I think I'd still put an emphasis on Facebook, probably something like the $30 range in there. I'd probably go 20 to Snap.
Yeah.
But that's where I would do it now. But I also think my intention behind that would be to transition more and more to Snap as that becomes increasingly viable. And that's the thing is, I think they're ahead now for where they should be, but I think they're going to get better.
Right. And I think, I mean, you brought up the potential for Amazon, and I think that if Amazon can really get that algorithm right, and we've been testing within Alexa here, and it seems like their algorithms are fairly good.
Yeah.
I mean, especially compared to something like Apple, which should have been doing this a long time ago.
Right.
If Amazon can get it right, I think you could get a much higher pay-per-click on the likes of an Amazon, because you're so close to that buying point.
You've got a qualified purchaser.
Right. Exactly. So, I'm really interested to see where that ends up going. Did you have anything else you wanted to hit on?
The only other thing I had and we kind of touched on this briefly, I know we were joking about it beforehand, but one of the most interesting things that Morton Sorrell of WPP said was talking about AOL and Yahoo as a contender. I mean, I made the comment, I don't know if he was intoxicated or something like that, but that seems way out of left field. But at the same time, obviously, this guy's the expert in the space.
Right.
I mean, he would know significantly more than me. But when I think AOL relevant force, I don't.
Well, maybe they're going where the money is. Maybe that's where the kind of the cash cow consumer is. Maybe like all of our grandparents, great grandparents who still have AIM, or who are spending money. Last thing, wanted to touch on the investment proposition now. So we talked about the idea proposition for each of these companies. Investment proposition, obviously, is you have Snap, which has a technically undefined valuation because they have negative earnings. You have Facebook, which trades at a very large multiple of earnings. Google, less so. Amazon, incredibly high multiple. Yeah. So Google, it's crazy we're saying this, but Google is the most reasonably valued of the four.
Agreed.
Is that the most attractive to you as an investment proposition as well?
It is to me. Of all of these, in terms of just, we work with all types of clients. We own, I think, every company that we've mentioned today. But Google is the most attractive to me for that very reason. I still think that there's a lot that we could uncover in terms of search. I still think they are the huge giant in search. And when we talk about, Amazon has all this room to grow, this and that and the other, that's still very much hypothetical in terms of how they're able to roll that out. Whereas the reality is no one's been able to touch Google in this space. And I think they're continuing to get better. We've talked about that on some of these podcasts. Check out the archives, all that good stuff. But Google's the most attractive. I think it's the most robust business model. So from that standpoint, I like Google an awful lot. Even independent of this group, I mean, it's a company that I would own.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's it for this episode.
Yeah, good stuff.
Catch us back later. Write in the comments. Follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, at Tusk Media LLC. Also Facebook.com/Tusk Media LLC.
Tusk Media is a subsidiary of Narwhal Capital Management. Ratings and reviews of Tusk Media content are not to be construed as endorsements of opinions, analysis, or services offered by Tusk or its parent company. The opinions and predictions shared here are professional beliefs at the time of publication. We are not under duress from any of the corporate entities mentioned. This is not a solicitation to take any particular action. Although we are investment advisors, this information should not be considered investment, legal, or tax advice. We strive to be as impartial, insightful, and accurate as possible. We base our opinions, analysis, and calculations on information we believe to be reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy. We can, however, guarantee that our opinions will sometimes be flat out wrong due to a variety of factors. Employees and clients of Narwhal Capital Management may or may not hold positions in the securities detailed and may or may not hold these positions in the future. A full list of all securities purchased, sold, or held during the 12 months preceding the date of this publication can be provided upon request. Unless otherwise noted, all data accessed via MarketWatch or the Bloomberg terminal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. A copy of Narwhal's Form ADV is available at the SEC's website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov, or from Narwhal upon written request.